I guess it's time to start doing something about this huge hole here in the firewall. Hey, how's it, jokes, and welcome back. If you don't know me, my name is Diff, and I'm busy with this 1939 Hudson bolt. So I've got this 351 Cleveland mounted now. It's in its position. I had to cut the firewall, original firewall, away to provide some space. So it's time now to build a new firewall. So let's have a look and see what we need to do. Well, okay, since I've got the gearbox or the transmission now sitting in its final resting place, so to speak, I might as well quickly do a template for this piece that needs to go in here. So I've cut this from some cardboard. So this piece of square tubing is going to go across like that to give this cross member some structure, and then of course also to be a landing point for the tunnel that I'm planning to build. So I can now use this as a guide to go and make my piece that needs to go across here. So I didn't try to calculate and scribe or mark these pie cuts. I just made a single cut, and then I would bend it until it closes, make a single cut right through again, bend it again, and carry on until I am now pretty much at a point where it's gonna be good. So it does take a while, but it works well enough. So using my cardboard template as a pattern, I can now check it out, bend it until it's looking good. I'm going to stick a clamp in here to hold it in place. It's looking good here, so I'm going to just give it a light tack. I'm just going to work my way along, making sure it fits my template. And then once I've got it tacked up, I can just weld it together and we're done. So I'm just making up a template from an old piece of cardboard to make a start on my firewall, but I think I'm actually going to do better to stick this in from the inside. I've already sort of guessed a cutout here where it will go across the transmission. Let me just stick it in there and see what we get. Right, something like that. So I've attached my piece of cardboard with these self-drilling screws so that it can't move, and then I can evaluate things. Let me just zoom in on these screws so you can see which ones I'm talking about. These ones, I think they've got different trade names in different parts of the world, but I'm sure you know which ones I'm referring to. So the original firewall was sitting in this plane, but if I move my new firewall back to this part, or this plane, that takes it back about 2 inches, and that's all I really need. So if I can have my firewall sitting here, it will be good. So I've just got a rough cut going here over the transmission. Down the line, when I've started making this in steel, I can fine tune this and figure out what the hell is going to be happening here. Yeah, so clever me did not clean up these edges when I did the initial cut. And yeah, to make them nice now and clean them up a bit and cut them, it's going to be quite tricky with the engine this close. I also think I want to move this one out a little bit further, maybe to cut it there somewhere. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cab off the chassis again. I mean, I've got this piece located, my screws here is holding it in the correct position, so I can reference it. So I think I'm going to take the cab off again. So I got the cab on the floor now, and I want to cut back here a little bit, and then the same on the other side. And then I also want to clean up this edge here. So I've created some reference marks here, and then I've also got my screws, so together with my reference marks I'll be able to take my hardboard piece off, do all this cutting and put it back exactly the way it was. Looks like I might have to take this thing off. I don't feel like doing that. Okay, now what? Where are you still attached? Of course, right there. Not so simple. Still got to do those. Look at this one. How am I supposed to get to you? Well, at least the bolts are coming off quite easily, which is freaking amazing if you think about it. I mean, the last time these bolts were put in here was probably in 1939. Come on. Whoopee, there we go. The things I do, all that squeezing and scrolling, simply because I didn't want to take the slings off, because I haven't taken them off to open the doors. What is wrong with me? At least it's one way to keep the old legs flexible, I guess. Anyway, I got my piece of cardboard or hardboard back in place, so I can start measuring out things here. So I've got to fill in this gap here, but instead of going square like that, I think I'm going to go with an angle, something like that. That'll just look much better. So the plan is to make a line here, mark a line, and then I can fold the plate that I'm going to be using in here so that it's got a bend, like about a 45-degree bend on that line. Okay, and down here I actually stop at this point, so I can cut this off right there. But you can see this is kicking back or bending backwards, so it would actually be very nice if I can fold a backwards lip here to connect with the inside part of the floor. So yeah, let's see how that's going to work out. So I must go across from that point to this point, something to that effect. It's almost across the top of the transmission. Look at that. Alright, I think I've got enough marks on this thing. It's my last time for acrobatics. And one more. Where are you? There we go. So many lines now. I wonder if even myself knows what's going on here. Anyway, let's do some cutting and let's see what we get. So this is the line where I want to make my bend. So I'm just going to score actually the cardboard on the back side, just to help me make that bend here in the hardboard or cardboard. What do you call this stuff? Cardboard, right. Slightly there. There we go. Same on this side. Cut so well, yeah. Okay, so now we can go and try this thing, see how it fits. Here we go, something like that. I'm going to have to obviously still do something here, fill in these parts. I have to cut this at an angle or something. I'll figure that out once we've made this piece in steel. I think that's my next move. This looks like it's going to work well. Well, it would just make sense to use a rusty old piece of steel for a rusty old truck. Finish! So let's do a nice and rusty bend on my homemade bending brake. I'll put a link up here on the screen if you want to know more about this contraption. Okay, let's see if that's enough. I've got a little bit more. I've got my bevel gauge here where I used to take an angle when I was putting in the cardboard piece. That doesn't look too bad. I think we'll go and give that a try. Right. Let's line up the other side here quickly. That doesn't look bad. Okay, let's do this one as well. A little bit more. Might be a little bit too much. That's as close as damn it. Let's go give it a shot. Right, let's see how my piece fits. That's gonna go in that. And I'm just going to use this jack here in the bottom to hold it in place for a while I check out things. It doesn't look too bad. Something like that. I need to do some trimming and stuff, but yeah, it's fitting pretty good. So I need another bend down here to tie it into the floor on the inside, something like that. And I can't do this bend in my bending brake because these here will catch. So I've got this piece of plate clamped to my workbench onto a piece of angle bar, and I'm going to see if I can hammer it to what I need. So I'm sure there were more than one YouTube inspector choking on his lollipop when he saw me bead rolling this rusty old piece of metal. But hey, that's their problem. And in my defense, Your Honor, I did lubricate it a little bit with some WD-40. But I like this. I think it blends in very nicely with the rest of the truck. So I'm happy with it. And I know many builders like to get quite involved with designs on firewalls. You know, they bead roll all sorts of intricate designs. I don't think it's going to work here. I like to keep it simple and basic. It's more than adequate for me. I've got some stiffness, and that's all I really want. So yeah, it fits quite well now. So I think my next step will be to tack this into place. Jeez, grinders and grindings everywhere. Maybe it's a good time to clean up here a little bit. Well then, I think I can safely say that I've got a firewall again. A rusty one. But it blends in quite well with the rest of the truck. So it works for me. It was a bit of a fight. A lot of weld splatter and all of that because of, I mean, this is like 80-year-old steel, eh? And quite rusty in spots, so it was a bit of a fight to get the welds done. But I managed. And I think it turned out quite well. I'm happy with it. So I've still got to do this section here that sort of slopes back and then ties into the floor that I also still have to build. But to do this part, I need to know where my transmission sits. So I'm going to have to stick the cab back onto the chassis and then we can figure out what we need to do here. Right, so I've got to do this area across the transmission next, but there's a problem here now. You see, there's a 30-year difference between my brain and my body. My brain still thinks it's 30 years old, and it's saying, let's go, let's go. My body says, stuff you, Charlie. I'm 62 years old and almost worn out. I need a break. So I think I'm going to call it a day. Thanks for spending time with me. I enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, have a lekker one.